Welcome back, guys, to another video. And today I've got something I find quite special. I've loved these cars for a long time. I've owned a few over the years and just haven't driven one for a good few years now. So as you can see behind me, I've got an E46 M3 Coupe. It's a 2004 car, so it's a facelift car. It's a fairly standard car. And yeah, it's just what's not to like about these things. These things they're a future classic, and prices have already started to increase on these, so they're a bit of a gem, to be fair. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll go for the usual routine, go for a little walk around the car, and then we'll go for a little drive just to give you guys a feel of what it's all about. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Performance Lifestyles. We're on Instagram as well, Performance_Lifestyles, and Facebook as well, Performance Lifestyles. And if you'd like your car featured on our channel, drop us an email at pflifestyle@hotmail.com, or alternatively, just drop us a message through any one of our social media accounts and we'll be more than happy to accommodate. But for today's video, we've got this E46 M3, so we'll check you outside the car. E46 M3 started in 2001, and to this day I think these cars still look great. Some cars don't age very well, but these M3s, this E46 shape, they look fantastic regardless of how old they are. I mean, the newer ones are very nice cars, but you know, the 46 M3 is a future classic. And I mean, this example here, it's a fairly tidy example, to be fair. It's a facelift car, and the only modification I think on this car is the CSL wheels. Now, the genuine CSL wheels, because there was a lot of fakes going around back in the days, and obviously the short number plates, the owner's private plate. But yeah, I mean, just look at this thing, man. They've kind of like, they've got this, the arches on them flare out compared to a non-M3, normal E46, should I say. And they've just got this thing about them. I mean, just look at that. That rear arch actually looks fantastic. They do really, these wheels especially, do really make the car stand out. Red brake calipers, I believe the wheels are 19s. Staggered fitment as per normal, as per all BMWs. And then the biggest telltale sign with these cars was this quad exhaust system. And the exhaust sounds so good. So good. Facelift car, so it's got the LED rear lights, obviously the M3 badge. This one's not been debadged or anything like that. And it's finished off in, I can't remember the exact code, but it's black and with the red interior. Quite probably one of the best combinations you could have got on these cars. The E46 M3s also had the grills in the vent, in the wing, with the M3 logo on them. The bonnet was, you know, when one of these is coming up behind you, you could tell it was an M3 as opposed to a usual E46. The bumper's completely different design. They've got vents on the side there. This guy's a bit dirty. I should have maybe had it washed first, but the big vent in the middle here, and then on the side there, and then you've got the big bulge. Don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a bulge literally here, which looks very good. I mean, just look at that car. Seriously, that car is seriously good looking. Like I said, the shape is, you know, 20 years old, but it still holds its own in this day and age against a lot of the newer cars, and they sound great. The 3.2 litre 6-cylinder engine in these cars, naturally aspirated, 343 odd horsepower. Some papers said, some reviewers said, you know, 350 odd. But they've got plenty of power, even to keep up with a lot of cars nowadays. You know, it's, like I said, it's 20 years old nearly, and 350 odd horsepower from a 3.2 NA engine. That's very good going. So another thing you don't actually see on cars of nowadays is these rear windows. These are pop-out rear windows, and they operate electronically. So it's a bit of a, it was a bit of an in thing in them days, but that was only with manual windows. But when BMW came out with this M3 and it was like electronic windows on the back, it was a bit of a big thing. And even in this day and age, it makes a big difference. You don't have to pop them out, or you don't have to drop them. It's just, it looks good. It also almost gives that car a bit of a wider stance, because when you look at it from the front, all you can see is that actual window popping out as well. And it kind of like just gives the whole overall look of the car. So onto the inside of this car then. There's no funny LCD sort of displays on the center, on the actual clocks or nothing like there is in the cars of today. But bearing in mind, you know, like I mentioned, it's nearly 2 decades old, and this is the actual SMG2 as well. So it's got the flappy paddle gearbox. This one actually does come with a few of the options. This was an option back in them days. Satellite navigation, heated seats was an option, and so was the Harman Kardon. And I believe the red seats may have been an option as well. So, oh, it's got red and yellow. Right. The whole thing with these cars was just, back in the days, you know, 20 odd years ago, when these first come out, they were one of them cars that you just looked at and you thought, wow, they look so aggressive. The flared arches, the whole raspiness, the 4 exhaust pipes on the back. You just looked at the thing and you thought, this is a special BMW. And the moment you heard one of these opened up, and then it was like, wow, these things really are amazing cars. And like I said, even in this day and age, they still hold their own. They're still a fantastic car, and difficult to beat, to be fair, with regards to looks and noise and stuff. A lot of times nowadays, there's a lot of fake noises inside cars, but with these, there's no fake noises. It is what it is. It's a 3.2 6-cylinder NA engine with around the 350 horsepower mark. What's not to like about them? And this is the better one, the Coupe. Convertibles did suffer from scuttle shake. There was a lot of flex in the actual body on these cars. Don't get me wrong, they were still a fantastic car, and they still are a fantastic car. But the Coupe was the more driver's sort of car. A lot of, you know, if you was to go on buy one for track days, you wouldn't really go to look for a convertible. You'd think I'd want a Coupe. And then obviously you got the limited editions to these. Well, you get the M3 CS, and then you get the daddy, which is the M3 CSL. And now I know the CSLs are very expensive. They had different interior, 2 seats in the back as opposed to 4 bucket seats, and there was just a lot more difference in them. More power. I think they were about 360 horsepower. Again, naturally aspirated 3.2 engine. Body strengthening, stiffening was a lot better on them, but they were designed more for track use as opposed to daily sort of use as like these cars were. So yeah, start it up. It's got that rasp. These M3s, honestly, they had that little rasp about them, and it's like, watch this. You'll hear more of that on the actual drive, but I'll show you under the bonnet for now. So there it is, the heart of this thing, the 3.2 litre 6-cylinder 343 or 50 or however you want to see it horsepower, still a lot of power engine. These sort of braces were standard on them. There was no such thing as an adaptive suspension on the M3s in them days, so you don't get no plugs onto the actual shock absorbers. But I mean, just look at that thing. These things were raw. They were very, very, you know, compared to the M3s and stuff of nowadays. So what we'll do now is we'll go for a little drive, just to give you guys a feel of what it's all about, and then we'll conclude the video. So like I mentioned, I mean, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Performance Lifestyles. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Performance_Lifestyles, and Performance Lifestyles on Facebook. And again, if you'd like your car featured on our channel, please do drop us an email, pflifestyle@hotmail.com, or drop us a message on any one of our social media accounts, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate. The moment you jump into one of these, and if you've ever driven one before, you'll understand exactly what I mean. the noise from the exhaust, the rasp is there almost immediately, you know, it's obvious. The moment you go over like 3,000 RPM, yeah, you can hear it. And it is such a great noise. And like I said, these things were, you know, the performance, the noise, everything about the car, these distinguishing features were something that you could tell an M3 apart from any other car, and especially more so the, you know, the sport BMWs. And it's, to this day, it's still such a great noise. And with this car having the standard exhaust system, I think it's perfect. There's no real need for additional modifications on the exhaust or anything like that. These cars are absolutely great just how they came out of the factory. You can cruise around in these cars, you know, just normal, use them as a daily car. They live up to the job just fine. There's no, you know, untowards sort of, you know, there's nothing really. A lot of cars are a bit too harsh for daily use, a bit too hardcore for daily use. But these things, I think they're very good, very good. You can't expect, you know, very smooth, comfortable rides, no, because these were never really designed, you know, to fit that bill. But as an all-round sort of car, you know, they're practical cars. They look good, and they're reliable, and you've got that rasp. You can adjust the actual settings on the gearbox on these cars. So at the moment it's about halfway up, so the gear changes aren't harsh, they're just nice and smooth. But the moment you're kind of like driving this car a bit spiritedly, you push this button up near the gear knob, put it up to the maximum sort of thing, and then all of a sudden the gear changes a lot sharper. It's almost a bit aggressive, but I suppose this is what you want if you're opening the car up, driving it a bit spiritedly. This is the ideal gear change. I know some people preferred the manual gearboxes in these M3s over the SMG2, but me personally, I've always had this love for the SMG2 gearbox. It was, in its time, it was quite possibly one of the best automatic gearboxes around. And comparing it to even the likes of the Porsches had buttons on the steering wheel which didn't feel quite right when you're changing gears. Like, you know, you're trying to put your volume up on your stereo. But the SMG2 came with flappy paddles, and it was just so good. And with obviously all the settings that you get on the gearbox, it just livened it up a lot more than the rivals and even like the Porsche ones. You can even use the gear knob to go up and down the gears. You obviously push it up to go up a gear and down to go down a gear. The M3s back in the days, especially when you bought the cab, it was a bit of a they had a lot of show about them. They were head-turning cars. They were very attractive cars. I remember the first time I ever saw an E46 M3. I think I was still in college, walking back from college, and it was a Phoenix yellow one, Coupe. It was one of the local lads there in Burton that had it. And he was probably one of the first few people around to actually, you know, have an M3. And it was, the moment I looked at it, it was like, wow. Seen photos in magazines, and internet wasn't a big thing them sort of days, but seeing photos in magazines, and you looked at it in the flesh, and it really did look better than them photos. And it was just one of the moments you stood there, and it was like, I could just stand there looking at this car for ages. It was that good. It's even got a bit of a blip on downshift. Now I can't remember if that was a standard feature on these things or not, but regardless, it's got it, it's there, and it sounds great. So we go from second gear now. Traction lights blinking. It's got a very good drive to it. And like I mentioned, the gear change in the maximum setting on the gearbox is fast, it's sharp. The driving position is very good. Steering wheel is obviously right in front of you, as it is on every car, but it is kind of like I mentioned in the other videos, some cars you sit slightly off center, but this is just fine. It is perfectly fine. You got everything there in front of you. On paper, these cars were down as doing 155 miles an hour. Now, I know people who had these in the past and they did a lot more than 155. So, led everybody to believe that they weren't actually restricted, not all of them anyway. And I don't think it was part of a option package in them days that you can get BMW to de-restrict them from the factory. But don't quote me on that and correct me if I'm wrong. And with it being 2 decades old nearly, it was a 6-speed and not 7 or 8 or like you get on the newer cars. Perfect cars to potter around in. And they still attract a lot of attention. You still notice a lot of people looking around just to look at the car. And these are probably only from people that actually enjoyed or experienced or had an M3 back in the days. They seem to have a very big following. And I'm sure most people who have got the new M3, the E92s even, they've had some experience with an E46 M3. And they've moved up to the newer models. There was a blip on downshift. And we've got a video up on our channel of a E92 M3, which was a stunning example, to be fair. It was a beautiful car. So do check that out as well. The link will be in the description, or just check out the videos on our page and you'll see the video. And we've got an M5 on there as well, an F10 M5, which is a rocket ship. So do check them out. The traction light, even on a nice warm day like this, seems to be lightening up a little bit, because we got to remember there's 350 odd brake horsepower at the rear wheel, well, at the crank, so it's probably you're looking about 300 horsepower at the wheels, and it's a lot of power for a 2-wheel drive car. Now, fuel economy on these cars, even back in them days, wasn't the greatest, but I can only imagine this thing at the moment is probably not going to be very good. But at the end of the day, in this day and age, nobody buys one of these for economy. That noise is so good, so good. You know, there's no modifications at all, just, you know, done to the car to create it. It's there from the factory. It's such an awesome sort of rasp that is. And I just happen to have an M135i ahead of me. They're a nice car. M140 is even better. These cars are still impressive. Very impressive. Like I said, it's been a few years since I last drove one of these, and I must admit, they still make you smile. They're still a fun car. Very much so fun car to drive. You don't get the cars of nowadays. Yes, they're good cars. They're very good cars. I'm not knocking them because they're fantastic. But these cars from all this time ago, they knew how to make a decent car, and it just goes to show, to be fair. When you drive one in this day and age and you're still impressed by it, you know that's a good car. And again, with these being NA, torque wasn't the biggest thing on them. It's about dropping gears, catching them at the right RPM, or even, off the mark, and they're a fast car still. 5 second 0 to 60, 5.5 seconds, I believe it was, sorry. And top speed, like I mentioned, 155 miles per hour. And I believe these cars will still get to that speed. And the best thing, they've got everything you could possibly want from a car when you're using it as a daily. I mean, like I said, it's got heated seats. It's even got a sports button, which sharpens up your throttle response when you're driving it spiritedly, or even when you're just driving it normal. It's got a Harman Kardon sound system, this one, which you can, there's a button on the dashboard, which I'm sure you can switch off the sub or on. traction control, which is quite a standard thing, climate control. But like I said, a sat nav. And with these, you could also program, so you can watch TV on them. I know back in the days it was like a big thing, you know, just to get it, like you get in video in motion on the coding you get on the new BMs. Pop out rear windows, electronically operated. Again, these small touches made such a big difference to these cars. They're an iconic car with a big following, to be fair. Off the market. Oh, traction lights going off. Stunning cars, honestly, so good, these things. Right, on that note, I'm going to conclude the video for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video of this iconic and such an awesome E46 M3 Coupe. Check out the other videos we've got uploaded on our channel. We've got an E92 M3, F10 M5, and various other Audi, Hondas, Scoobies, Evos. So please do check them out, help us grow. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Performance Lifestyles. Check us out on Instagram, Performance_Lifestyles, and we're on Facebook as well, Performance Lifestyles. Check us out, subscribe to our channel and help us grow. And as always, stay safe everybody, and we will catch you on the next video.